Hey guys, how we doing? We're gonna have a little conversation. Be a little more informal than we're used to. And one of the friends in the group, one of the groups I manage, asked for a video about finding investors, finding someone to put some capital into his business. And so I thought I'd record this quick video, and I'm gonna post it on the group later. So let's talk about this. Why does this happen? Well, in reality, a lot of businesses fail, a lot of ventures fail, a lot of projects fail, not because the project in itself is bad or because there are bad ideas or the product is not any good. It fails because there's not enough cash, and they run out of cash before the the whole project can come to fruition. So you can think about this like a tree, right? And you're trying to plant this tree and you put it in the right soil, you put the seed just right, then you start to water it, and then the sun comes in. But if the nourishment stops at any point, the whole tree might not keep growing because there's not enough injection of that energy from the sun, from the water, from the nutrients of the soil for it to keep growing. So the same thing can happen to a business, to an idea. And so one of my friends asked me, Gabe, how do I find more investors? How do I find people to put some money into my business, into the idea? So there's a lot of components to this. Of course, this will be sort of a simplification of it. That will be going over some like basic concepts. This can get complicated, of course, and it's a lot of the concepts though might be easy, or rather might be simple but not easy. So it's really easy to understand them, but the actual implementation of them, it might take longer. It might take a little bit, put us out of our comfort zone a little bit. It might require some time, etc., etc. This time for this talk, guys, and again, this is more of a conversational one. I had one that was very successful. It's being shared a lot, and it's gotten more views than some of the other ones. And the feedback that I've been getting is that it's more conversational. I sort of is not so serious. And here I am preparing, trying to be more professional in my talks. And oh, hey Jordan, how are you? Um, so, so this is what we're going to talk about. How do we get this? So first, let's talk about the mindset. And so much in life goes back to mindset. And what is mindset? Our mindset is the beliefs that we have about how things work and relate to each other in the universe. That's sort of like a super, 30,000 foot view of what mindset is. And so why is that important? Because the minute we hear the word investor, we might think that an investor is somebody that we go out and look for, is this guy in a suit and drives this really nice car and owns all these companies. That could be an investor, but that's not the only investor. So my first tip on finding investors is, what resources, as far as people, do you have access to? You might not think of your friends as investors, but they might be. You might not think as of your family members as investors, but they might be. So that's number one. Who do you have access to that you can ask that believes in you, that believes in your product, that believes in your work ethic, right? If it's like the joke they used to say, well, not even your mom will lend you money. Well, that probably has to do with, even though his mom loved this person very much, the work ethic, she knows enough about this person to know he's not going to go through with his plans. He's not really going to stick to it. So that's number one. You got to be able, you can't convince your friend, somebody that is already biased towards you. It's already biased towards your product. It's already biased towards, they like you a lot. You can't convince someone to spend a little bit of money, or maybe test your product out, give you a review. All this are investments. And if you can't do that, then that's when okay, I maybe I got to go back to the drawing board, or I got to fix these other things that I need to fix in order to do that. So that's tip number one. Look for investors in people that already know you, already like you, not with strangers. Okay. So now maybe you already tried that, maybe you already have, some people helping you out, and that, right? So what is the next step? Well, here's the next important tip. Go to people that you know that will definitely will not give you money. They will not, maybe because they're too important, or they're too, maybe they're in a different field, maybe they don't know you at all. And why is this important? Because you want to practice. You want to practice. See, like, you want to start seeing your MVP, your minimal viable product, this product that you have. Is it solid enough for a business owner, for somebody to invest in that venture? Not only is it solid enough, can you explain it well enough, right? Can you concise enough, right? They say you need to have an elevator pitch, right? An elevator pitch is something like a couple phrases, maybe 20 seconds of something where you basically encapsulate everything that you are about, or your business, or whatever venture you're trying to get funded, in a way that it's from beginning to end, right? If you don't have a good elevator pitch, then you can move on to maybe a paragraph pitch or a page pitch, right? So you need to be able to have it concise enough. And a lot of times you don't get that unless you practice it. So you got to practice it. And you don't want to practice it with people that are likely to be able to give you the money, or to, like you enough that you can convince them to give you the money. You want to practice with people that if you mess up, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like a lot of times, when I was starting and to do a lot of cold calling and stuff for my personal business, I called people like really far away in far cities, because the likelihood of them working with me was low. And so I started just trying it and just messing up, because you're going to be learning a lot, and it depends on how much cold calling you've done, how much pitching you've done, how much sales you've done. You'll get better. You'll get better. You'll get more comfortable. You'll get more emotionally. You'll be emotionally strong, especially to take rejection, because you will be rejected. Okay, so that takes me to number three. So let's recap on tip number 2. Go practice with people that are not likely to give you money, not likely to do business with you, because you're gonna mess up. So you might as well practice with them. So now the third one is getting used to rejection, or you'll never get completely used to rejection, but you'll start to at least be a little stronger, right? Think about like a workout. So when you're doing weights, it's not that you eventually feel no pain, no muscular strain. Of course, you're always gonna feel strain, because that's what gets your muscles stronger, right? So that's always going to happen, especially as you get stronger, even stronger, and then you put a little more weight, and then you'll do the whole process, and it'll start to hurt. The next day, I had a friend. It's really funny. I'll tell you guys the story. So I have this friend who's always posting on social media that he's going to the gym. It's one of those guys. But he doesn't seem like a very muscular guy. He just seems kind of skinny. And then one time he says, "Gabe, I can't put any muscle, man." And I'm like, "Really? Well, what's going on? You go to the gym all the time." And he says, "Yeah, I just can't. I don't know what to do. I just can't put any muscle." And I said, "Well, how heavy are you lifting?" And then he tells me, how heavy he's lifting. And I'm thinking, dude, that's not very heavy. Whatever your ranges are, whatever your goals are, you might lift heavier, but it just didn't seem like he was lifting very heavy. I said, "Man, that's not very heavy." And then his response was, "Well, I just don't like the feeling of soreness that I get the next day if I lift heavier than that." And so I sort of had to tell him, "Well, that's what builds your muscles. That strain, that soreness is what, encourages your body to, create the enzymes to make, the proteins." I mean, this is a lot of work for your body to do that. It takes a lot of your energy. So you have to convince your body, look, we have to spend energy, with the cellular growth. And you do that through strain, through, like the old cliche, no pain, no gain. Well, the same thing is true in business. We build our strength, in this case, our emotional strength, through strain. Not muscular strain, but emotional strain. because it is a little bit uncomfortable to get told no, or I'm not interested, or are you crazy, or that's never gonna make any money. I mean, they're going to say that, and so you need to. So somebody was saying, look, I can't find anybody to invest any money in my business, and they said, well, how many pitches have you given this week? Well, none. Well, how about this month? Well, maybe a couple. So it's like asking a couple of girls out, or trying to get two phone numbers from two girls in a month, and then deciding at the end of the month that your dating life is a failure. That might not be true. You just asked two girls and they said no. So what you need to do is ask more, and we already talked about that in a different video, right? Really playing your numbers. Chances are most people are going to say no, whether out of fear, whether because they don't know you, whether because you're practicing your pitch, whether because you explained it and the way you explained it wasn't very good, they were confused. So you want to have something that is solid, again, through practice. So that was tip number 2, right? So again, tip number 3, start being okay with being rejected, sort of planning for it, and being okay. I'm going to ask 10 people for this, and chances are maybe one will say, okay, maybe let's meet and talk about it. And those are really the statistics. So that's the other tip. Now, tip number 4 has to do with after you go through this process of tip number 1, 2, and 3, you have to reevaluate what the results you're getting. Because maybe the market or investors or people who are smarter than you or who have more experience in business are trying to give you, excuse me, some feedback on whether you're going down the good path or not. One of my mentors, he says, if you're selling underwater basket weaving, you might not get a lot of clients because not a lot of people are interested in underwater basket weaving, right? So when you have this idea, this business idea, and you share this with your friends, oh, thanks, Alan. Thanks for commenting. Sure, you should do that. That's great. Awesome. Yeah, let me know how it goes. Please keep us updated. Definitely share it. When you do these kinds of things, you will see how you'll get feedback. Even if your friends say it's a good idea, your mom says it's a great idea, you think it's a great idea, so you think this is a great idea, but it might not be. This is why we start with what we call an MVP, a minimal viable product. You don't want to go through the process of creating this huge thing that nobody wants. And a lot of people make that mistake in business. A lot of people make that mistake. Well, if I think it's good, then it must be good, right? And I come from a tradition of a very artistic tradition, and our artists by necessity and by sort of default, we think very internally. We think very much from our own selfish idea, which is, I mean, that's what artists do, and this is nice, and it's not a bad thing, except when you're trying to sell something. Because when you're trying to sell something, when you're trying to get value from other people, by definition, they have to see value in what you're doing, right? And this is, a lot of this, though, is perception. It's not even real, because that's how markets exist. That's how human psychology is. It's not necessarily that this is a real thing, right? I was telling some guys the other day, I was like, is the gas that we're buying right now different than the gas that we bought 3 years ago that was maybe 3 times as expensive? No, it's the same gas. Why is it more expensive? Because the value is set not by the reality, the tangible reality of it. Nobody cares about that. Humans certainly don't. We like to think that we do. We like to think everything is very logical, but we're not. And we're completely emotional. And then we use logic to justify it. So if your proposed market doesn't see the value of what you are proposing, they won't buy. They won't give you money to invest because they don't see the value. So that's tip number 4. you want to go in there, and after you first ask your mom, your friends. That's tip number one, right? Let's just recap and we can close it up. I don't want to make these too long, even though it's more. This one is one of those more conversational ones that we're going to be trying out. So tip number one, if you can get your mom, your friends, your buddies, people that like you to believe in your idea, they bought into it. And they might even give you money. They might even, or that you might even convince them, here, try it out. Like I'm putting this course together for these particular some friends of mine, and I'm just gonna put like a very short, very minimal course to try it out, see what happens, right? And I'm just gonna get them to try it. So what they're believe enough to spend a little bit of time on it. So that's already investing. We may not think of it as investing, but it is investing. So that's number one. If you can convince that, okay, then you go to step number two. In step number two, you go, okay, let me start practicing with people that are probably going to tell me no, but I can start to get good at pitching my idea. Then in step number three, you go, okay, well, I'm just going to keep doing it, even though I feel some resistance, even though I'm getting a lot of no's. I only ask, people say, well, nobody liked this idea. Well, how many people do you ask? 5. Well, that's not enough. You got to ask more people than that. And people in your market, you got to define who are the people who are interested, right? So in this particular course that I'm going to be putting together for some musicians, friends of mine, I'm going to be doing like that's my target. If the old lady that runs a coffee shop tells me, hey Gabe, that's not a good idea, she's not my client, so I'm not worried about her opinion. But if a lot of people who are in my market say, Gabe, I don't really have use for that, then that's step number 4. I'll start analyzing and backtracking my previous step and thinking, okay, is there something here that I'm missing? Is there something I think is a good idea? My mom thinks it's a good idea. My friends thinks it's a good idea. But now that I've gone outside and I've done 100 pitches, I've gotten 99 no's, and then one that said call me back, and he's now not taking my phone calls. So right then you should think, okay, something's up. Let me I'm going to have to maybe do a little bit more market research. Maybe instead of a pitch, you could turn it into a little bit of a research and say, look, I have this idea, blah 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 blah. What do you think? Do you find value in this? And somebody might say yes, and then you might follow up and say, how much are you willing to pay for this? We all taken those surveys before, right? How much are you willing to pay for this? Do you think it's too expensive, too cheap? Do you think it's is quality? Do you think do you find this difficult in your life? So basically, that's what you want. And then after you get that feedback on tip number 4, then you can actually revise the whole thing, right? Or and just start from scratch. But then the cool thing, the beauty of this, is that this could be a project of a month. Now, this might seem like a long time, but it's really not. Because if a month you are able to find something that's going to actually get some traction, that you are successful, that all you got to do is scale it up. In other words, if you ask 100 people and 20 of those seem somewhat interested, 15 of those you got a meeting with, 8 of those are willing to put some time and some money. Now okay, for every 100, about 8% are interested in my idea. So let me scale it up to 500, and I should be looking at about 40 people that are going to be interested in whatever I'm trying to sell. So and then you look back, and then you do the whole process over again. That's 2 months, and you already found something that you don't have to spend 6 months or a year analyzing, overanalyzing, thinking about it. Well, I don't know if and then you're stuck, and you're telling everyone that you have this great idea, but you're really not executing. And so you remember, you get no points for ideas. You get no points for originality, creativity. You get bonus points for execution, and then super bonus points for constant execution, measurable constant execution. Okay, guys, I hope you got some value. Let's see. We got no questions or anything, so I think so. But how do I develop a pitch to ask for money, says Alan. Okay, that's a good question. Here's okay, sorry, we lost connection. Here's the way you can think about it a little bit. So and I call this bounded rationale. This is one of my big ideas that I want to eventually really narrow down. I'm still collecting data, still write down stuff that I found. And there's a concept called bounded rationale. And bounded rationale basically says, and you can look it up, it's basically the idea that you can only make decisions based on several factors. And those factors, though, are limited, right? They're not, even though we live in an age of the age of information, we have so much information at our fingertips. That information is still limited. There's only so much information. There may be a lot, right? So that's one limiting factor. But maybe that's not the huge determinant, because there's a lot. There's going to be a lot of information. It will take you a lot of time. That's the next limiting factor. How much time does it take to, so for example, let's say let's make something really simple. I'm going to learn how to bake the best cupcakes in the world. Okay, that's my idea. So bounded rationale states that there is a limited amount of information in the world available to me to learn how to bake cupcakes, right? I mean, I'm sure there's like tons and maybe like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, but there is a limit. There's not an infinite amount of information. Let's put a ridiculous number. Let's say it's 100,000 hours of content out there in the world, in the universe, for me to bake cupcakes, right? So in theory, if I spend 100,000 hours of research in cupcakes, I will have all the knowledge there is about baking cupcakes, right? Of course, then the cost versus benefit factor really is skewed, because you might think, well, I'm not going to spend that much time just researching that. Again, that's part of bounded rationale. The next factor is the time. How much time do you have available to make this decision, right? Bounded rationale states that if you're in the middle of the highway and this guy cuts in front of you, you don't have a time to make a market decision on whether you should steer out of the way or, be a little more instinctual, right? So any decision that you make in the world has bounded rationale, and you want those boundaries, because if you don't have boundaries, then you are literally frozen, because you don't know what decision you make. Okay, so I'm going to give you a bounded rationale. This is something that I do all the time. Every time I need to make a decision, every time I need to measure like what is it that I want to do with something, I give myself some parameters, because it's going to be easier for me to decide. I may still make a mistake, but see, if I sit here and go, what am I going to do today? I can do anything. Then that gives me no options. I'm literally like, okay, what does that mean? I got to give myself some things, like, okay, I gotta do these things. Okay, so here's what bounded rationale, as far as making a pitch, is. So in one extreme, you have this approach. Hello, how are you? Buy this now. Right? That's one approach. The next approach is, hello, how are you? I just want to be friends. So this is your box. This is the box that you're going to be living in, right? So the question is, how far should you go towards buy this now or invest money now, give me your money right now, and how far are you going to be in let's be friends? Now, why is this important? Because people only do business, they only spend money, they only do things where they perceive value, but more than that, again, it's not logical, guys. It's emotional. If they like you, that's it. I mean, really, it will come down to this. If people like you, they are more likely, as a matter of fact, the statistic says something like 56, sorry, I was taking a call there, 56% more likely to give you their money, to do business with you, if they simply like you. That's it. So this is very important, because a lot of us think, okay, my product has to be great, I have to serve the best food, or I gotta, have the shiniest little thing, or I have to have the best transportation, the windows have to be tinted. That doesn't matter. I mean, not in the way that you think it matters. It matters more that you go out there and be likable. This is crazy. I mean, I never thought this was like this. And then when I found out, and then when I put it to the test, it was like a revelation. I was like, whoa, That's crazy. So let me close this real quick. So anyways, so that's how you create a pitch. So you have those two ideas. So this is why you need to practice it, because you might start pitching and then you might be a little too salesy, a little too buy this from me now. So one of the things that I, and my assistant, she's always annoyed at this, because I always make dating comparisons. And the reason that I make dating comparisons is because the top thing of intimacy that you can get with a person is, for somebody to agree to be in an intimate relationship with you. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. So thanks Alan, I'm glad you're getting some benefit out of this. So this is why if you can convince someone to have a personal close bond, man, that's like the number. I mean, that's the marketers, the business's dream. They want to be your friend. So this is why I do those comparisons. So a lot of times we say you don't want to go up to just a random girl in Starbucks and say, hey, would you marry me? Like, that will never work, right? She will probably slap you, or at least walk away and think you're a weirdo and a creep, right? That's never gonna work. But also, you don't want to go to Starbucks and completely ignore her, right? That's not gonna work either. So, but you can definitely start by having a small conversation. But one of my mentors, actually, he's crazy. He has this thing where he has this his wallet, right? And so what he does is he goes to a place, and then when he's trying to meet a girl, he will walk in front of her, a little far away, not too close, nothing that looks too obvious, when he realizes that she's about to leave. And then he walk, and then he accidentally will drop his wallet. And so the girl would be like, oh, excuse me, you drop your wallet. And he'll be like, oh my goodness, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, thank you so, what's your name? And then just start a conversation from them. So you can do those sort of things, frequent places where, for example, one of the things that I do, a stealthy thing that sometimes I've done, and I've made some good contacts, is fly first class. Now, you might not be able to afford that. Many times, I'm not able to afford flying first class. But just because you're in a place that somebody might be there who might be somebody who even knows somebody that knows somebody. And if you're in that position, you might be able to, pitch, not really pitching. Again, you don't want to say, here, marry me. You want to say, have a small conversation and, oh, what do you do? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I was, I'm going to be in London in September. Like, I'm going to be in London in September. So somebody, again, I drop that, and inevitably they ask me, oh, what are you going to be doing? And so they tell me, they say, or I tell them, oh, this is what I'm, and so now it's not a pitch per se, it's a conversation. So if in one side I have buy this from me now, and in the other side I have let's just be friends, you want to go towards maybe 75% towards let's be friends, but look, I have this other cool things that I offer, or I have this company that I'm getting through the ground. Yeah, I'm visiting with this person who's thinking about injecting some capital into my business, because I'm going to be expanding, and I'm offering, maybe you're offering equity, maybe you're offering partnership in your business, and then that might be like, oh well, actually I have some, or maybe they have a friend, or maybe they have, you never know, and by being a friend, by being very likable, that's when you start to really get something going. Okay, guys, so I see no more questions or anything. Thanks, Alan, for commenting. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Appreciate the support, all the feedback that I get. I get so much feedback, and again, wanted to make a more conversational one, since I'm getting I was asking my I think I have a video that's really bad. Like, I don't like it at all. And you can ask Paola, my assistant. You can ask her, and I always tell her, I was telling her just a couple of days ago, I was like, why do people like this video? Like, what? And she was saying, I think it's because you're like conversational and you're just talking to people, and people like that. And I'm like, no, no, no. I think because the piano is in the video, or I think it's because the background, or because I was sitting down, or because didn't write on the board, didn't look like I was a teacher. But I don't know why. But that video has been very popular. I've gotten a bunch of shares that even shares from a couple people that I don't even know, and so that's cool. That's awesome. Again, if it's just me practicing, and I like teaching because I was a music teacher for a long time, and so I still, I guess, I have a little bit of that tendency of sort of lecturing and regurgitating the things that I learn for really my own benefit, because I learn when I teach. So thank you guys for your feedback. We'll continue with making these videos. I'm gonna post this in the group, and yeah, just keep it up. If you have any, this is really mainly for the people in the group. Sorry, just disconnected. Once I post the video, just put your comment below on what you're gonna be doing, and then maybe what feedback you're getting, any questions you might have additional to maybe you've gotten some feedback from somebody that you approach about investing. So definitely put it there. And this video is for you, Joe. Thanks for commenting and asking for it. Okay, see you guys later. Bye bye.